Our next speaker is Bernie Henderson. He graduated from Old Dominion University, graduated from TJ. He was a cadet captain adjutant, which means he was second in command. He was a founding member of the Reserve Officer Training Corps at Old Dominion. Served in the Air Defense Brigade of the Virginia National Guard. He's currently the Director of Family and Community Relations at Woody Funeral Home and the Cremation Services. He served in executive positions under 5 different governors in the state of Virginia. He's chairman of the Board of Deacons at Grace Baptist Church. He's vice president of Jewish Family Services and a member and director of the Virginia Baptist Mission Board. He's married to Marie Jamez Henderson. They have 2 married daughters, a grandson and a granddaughter. And Bernie told me last night they got another grandchild on the way. I will let you know that Bernie was one of my former students. We had a government class. I taught his government class at TJ my first year. And Bernie, depending on what comments you make, I still have my grade book available. I can alter some grades.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Flavia. I was telling some former TJ students earlier this week that I still have difficulty calling him Russ. He was and always will be Mr. Flavia. So we can talk about that grade a little bit later.
Okay.
All right. I would like to ask the principal of Thomas Jefferson High School, Mrs. Candace Vinnie Chaplin, to come forward, please, for the purpose of receiving our plaque. It is my honor, Madam Principal, to present you this plaque, which we hope you will place next to the service flag that is in the hall. That is certainly something that's revered by all of us who are in the cadet corps there. And I would like to now read this plaque for you, for those who might not be able to see it clearly on the screen. It says, service flags such as the one displayed here were authorized by the Department of War during World War II to promote patriotic support. This service flag was dedicated on November 25, 1942 by the Thomas Jefferson High School Alumni Association to honor those who served. The number 1254 down the middle represents the number of former students and faculty members who answered the call to duty, honor, and country. The 69 gold stars represent the number of those confirmed killed by the time this flag was permanently displayed. The bronze plaque by the stairway, which was dedicated on November 17, 1946, honors the 71 named who gave their lives in the service of their country. Cadets of the former Thomas Jefferson High School Corps of Cadets rendered a hand salute whenever they passed by this flag to honor those who had served and paid the ultimate sacrifice for their country during World War II. Presented by the Thomas Jefferson High School Corps of Cadets Alumni Association, this date, August 18, 2012. Thank you.
Chaplain, and I'm the new principal at Thomas Jefferson High School, and I want to thank you for allowing me to be with you today. And I also want you to know that I really am very proud of you all for hanging on to the character and the development that came to you as a result of being part of the Cadet Corps, and know that character development and really doing things that will make a difference to our community is one of our major goals at Thomas Jefferson for our current students. That follows the legacy that you created. And you should be very proud of your connection to Thomas Jefferson, and may she live on forever. Thank you.
Let me now take the liberty of explaining some of the why for that plaque, and more importantly, for that flag. Because in dedicating this plaque, we pay tribute to those students and faculty members for their sacrifice and valor, for their common cause and compassion, for their determination and victory. And we offer our gratitude to them for engaging in the most just war this world has ever known. What we commemorate this morning is the role that they had in a war in which 500,000 U.S. citizens perished on battlefields, in infernos at sea, in planes falling from the sky, and in prisoner of war camps. Here and now, we ponder what this flag and the bronze plaque represent. Those numbers, those stars, those names take on the significance of real people who are so special, not because they were different from us, but because they were like us in so many ways. But most importantly, they responded to the call to defend this country and literally to save our world the way we hope we would do under similar circumstances. They walked those same halls and they occupied those same classrooms as we did. They also cruised the parking lot at Bill's Barbecue. They went to football games at City Stadium. They saw movies at the Bird Theater. And they had picnics and took walks at Maymont. But they were also different from most of us. Growing up, they didn't have it quite as easy. They were children of the Great Depression. Their generation knew firsthand what deprivation meant. All of them saw it close up, and many of them felt it. Many of them quit school, not because they were foolish or unmotivated, but because they needed to put food on the family table. And those of us who are children of that generation learned early in our lives that they never took a dollar for granted and they never spent one without thinking about it first. Some of those we honor today might have gotten their first pair of new shoes or their first clothes that were not hand-me-downs when they showed up for basic training. There is no evidence that their generation wanted to go to war. In fact, before the war was brought to this nation, most Americans, and especially young people, saw no reason to be involved in the affairs and the events in far-off Europe and Asia. Nor was there much interest in this country about defense. In 1940, the U.S. Army had a total of 190,000 soldiers and 14,000 officers. It owned a total of 464 tanks that were about as tough as coffee cans. The average age for Army majors was 48. And 1/4 of the first lieutenants were over 40 years old. But when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and the Germans declared war on this country, Americans, and especially the young people, changed their opinions overnight and began transforming the United States from the 17th place among the nations of the world in military strength, just behind the country of Romania, to the mightiest power in the history of this planet. Boys who had never seen an airplane on the ground were soon piloting 4-engine bombers. Girls who became queasy at the sight of scraped knees on the hockey field became nurses in mass units and put wounded soldiers back together. High school football players found themselves in close quarter combat in tropical jungles in Southwest Asia. And guys who were mowing lawns in the summer were digging foxholes in the frozen ground of Europe in the winter. Even at home, young women who had planned to be housewives and mothers took jobs building ships, working in munitions factories, and driving trucks. Even little children had to go without candy and chewing gum and toys, and too many of them would go through the rest of their lives without their dads. When victory was won, this generation returned home and resumed their lives. They married and produced families at a record pace, as evidenced by those of us who are members of that generation called baby boomers. A federal government that was grateful, responsive, and even functional created programs to help our veterans buy homes and further their education. These programs were not welfare, they were not giveaways, they were not waste of taxpayers' money. They were great and wise investments because in return, the recipients created new industries, new science, and unparalleled prosperity. And this generation also demonstrated a new and very different understanding of the responsibility of war victory. They did not seek to exact revenge on the people of the nations they defeated by ransacking their countries and enslaving their citizens. Instead, they rebuilt those countries and earned the respect of the people in them, providing their former enemies with a standard of living far greater than they would have ever achieved if their defeated nations had been victorious. So we proudly and humbly honor all who are represented on that flag and on that plaque in the hall of our school by providing an explanation of their meaning for future generations to understand their significance. Those of us who are not part of that generation acknowledge that we cannot feel the full impact of these memorials. We can only appreciate what they represent: the sacrifice of youth, the anxiety of an unstable future, the physical, mental, and emotional pain that persisted long after the shooting war ended, and the heartbreak of permanent emptiness from the loss of parents, children, spouses, siblings, and friends. So it falls to us and succeeding generations who are here and now, as well as those in the future, to honor the legacy of those lives, realizing that no piece of cloth and no large plaque and no words of explanation for them are equal to our individual and collective obligation to honor them through the living of our lives by fulfilling our duty to our country, which is a commitment to build upon the foundation that they established, which is the task that we know can never be considered complete. For the love of our country requires that we constantly and tirelessly work to make it better. There is always room for improvement. The reality is that probably no one will salute that flag as we used to do. Some will pass by it daily without even noticing it. Many will walk by it without ever wondering what it stands for, and even if most do not pause and read the plaque, for those who do, few as they may be, may they feel a fresh obligation to live and use their lives in a way that continues and enhances this gloriously rich chapter in the lineage of Thomas Jefferson High School, and ultimately to the enrichment of the nation and our world. In memory of those who are represented by the gold stars, who were forever silenced, we pay our respects to them now with the trumpet solo Silence, played by Steve Beverly, and the muffled drum Bill Britton. Fading light.